Hello, CIS40B. In this video, I'm going to talk about week 1 task and some of the concept information that we have to cover this week. In my last video, I go over the course orientation. However, I wanted to be a little bit more specific with week 1 and what we have to do, as some of this might be new to many of you, and some of you have used TestOut before, so that might be very familiar. So for week 1, since we start late, I do have some stuff that's due on Sunday. However, I did move some of the things into Thursday of next week. While this session is very short, we have to cover all the required objectives for this class. I want to make sure that I give you some ample time, as test out modules can be lengthy, or it would require a lot of time. So I would suggest that we would chunk up various modules for different part of our week to be able to handle all the exercises throughout. So if you try to do it in one sitting on Sunday night, you might not be able to accomplish that. So I would recommend that you divide up the work and try to do it daily or a few days throughout the week. So in this week, we will be required to post the discussion. And in the discussion, I post some of the questions along with the OSI model, or the Open System Interconnection. The reason for this is the beginning part of this class usually covers some of the network concept, which we've learned in CIS40A. And you would find the image for the OSI here. So in this discussion, make sure that you answer or you post a reply that would include these 5 questions: your name and the certificate or the degree that you're pursuing at our college, your interests and hobbies, your goal in this class, your goal in cybersecurity, and you need to provide an example of how OSI model is used for troubleshooting and network communication. So, and usually this is an interview question, so we want to make sure that we review some of that and also review some of the protocols for each of the layer when you get a chance. So in the first module, you will find that we would also need to access TestOut. So instead of doing all the individual tasks as assignments, which can be very tedious and many, what I did was I post each section as a page. So after you finish your discussion, you would click on this page. And the first part of chapter 3, it goes over Cisco device connection, how to connect a Cisco device, how to be able to boot a router, how to be able to configure your router files, and so on. So in order to learn more about this, you would first click this module, and it will require you to log into TestOut. And as you can see here, TestOut will provide you some video, so you would need to watch it. Then you would move forward after the video to the next step, and you would read this information. So from the last class, or when we did the lab in CIS40A, or when you learned networking before, you know that with Cisco devices, you can connect via the console cable to be able to configure the Cisco device. And console cable can come in with different connection or connectors, such as in the older cable, you would see it with the serial. In the newer cable, you might see it with the RJ45, which is the Ethernet connector. or in some cases, it's also USB. And the common one that you see today is USB Type-C. So it talks about the USB serial cable here. And you would see a table for the different connection. Then after you view this information, and it's important that you look at this information because when you do the assignment, which is the practice questions, it will entail some of the concept that's covered in these. So we would move to the next page. And here it provides you with another video. So as you proceed, you need to make sure that you look at all the content. And I also put the link here. So in the case that if you need to go back and review, for example, if I'm doing a lab and I need to go back and review, how do I modify the Cisco device configuration files? I would click on this link on the page in order to access that directly, or you can go to TestOut and click on that particular lesson. So after I have completed all these, I can do the practice questions. So if you click on the link in our assignment, it's going to bring you to your practice questions here. And there is no time limit. You have 10 questions to complete, and you want to score 80%. So we want to go ahead and start. So make sure that you read and go through the videos. If you want to, you can take notes and be able to complete your assignment, which is your practice question. So after I had completed that part, I would go to the next one, which is the next set, which is command line. And command line in Cisco is very important. It's a way that we can configure the device. We can go in and modify the settings for the device. We can use it to set password, which you learn in the later part. But through that, a lot of the times you would see devices that might have graphical user interface, but the majority of the time the technician or the administrator would use CLI. So here it goes over how to use CLI, how to be able to use the show command, which is very, very common. And so when you watch the video, they demonstrate on how you can use show. So if you need help in command line for Cisco and in CLI, you would do a show with the question mark. And you can also use command to set up your device or your interface name, set up your device information. You can use it to look up the details of your device, or there's so many different things that you can access using command line. So I would highly suggest that you practice CLI. And so as you go through the test out, you would see that there is a lab component, and this is your lab grade. You would see the little mouse icon. So we would click find the device information. And so once you go through all of these lessons, you would then start the lab. And in the task, it's going to ask you to accomplish finding the iOS version, looking at the NVRAM in the router. And in the videos and the lessons, it will talk about what is stored on regular RAM and what is stored on NVRAM. So it's important to think about how storage is used for certain type of configuration and certain settings on your device. And then it will also talk about the amount of DRAM each of the router have. And that could also be varied across the different types or models of the router as well. And then we can also look at the interfaces. So when we say interface. It's just a way that we can communicate with the system or connect most of the time physically through a connection point on the system. So if it's serial, it would then use the DB. So if I'm ready to do this, I will go ahead and click the Start Lab, and it's going to load the page. And once that happens, it's going to simulate your router like this. So you can click it and it's going to open up your command line interface. And you have to remember how to be able to access the device. And we learn in CIS40A and also in the lesson for this week that we have to enable the device in order to get into the configuration mode of the device and be able to view the information by using show or other type of command. So we would need to complete the task as a lab. And if you need to start over, you can click here. And then in order to, after you find the information in command line interface, if you have the output here, you would then click answer questions to be able to select your answers for the listed questions. Once you have selected the appropriate answer, you can click Score Lab and it would provide you with the score. And if you need to redo it, you can click Start Over. So that is an example, right, of a lab or a lab that we have to do this week. So once I'm done with the command line part, right, here's the lab, which is required. So once you do complete the lab, it's going to then link your score to Canvas. And then you will be able to take the next set of practice questions. So I would recommend making sure that you go through those lessons before you do the lab and the practice questions. And so what I did with that is I broke each of the set of the questions into different areas, and I put the link to those on these pages. But you can definitely go through the TestOut, you know, one lesson to the next and get to the lab portion. And then you can also, you know, click on, for example, click on various lessons as you go through. So I can jump forward and go back in the case that I need to redo or rewatch the video. So for our assignments, as you look at your assignments, you would see that for this week, we're mostly going to do our discussion, and we are going to do our practice questions as assignments. And for our lab exercises, you're going to see that there are various lab exercises that are connected or linked to our module 1 or week 1 module. If you have problems or if you have any questions, you can communicate with me, send me a message or send me an email. I'll be happy to help you. But make sure that you look at TestOut access page in order to set up your access for TestOut. That's a temporary access, and also check your email. So I hope that this video helped you get started with week 1. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you for watching.